This is going to be about philosophy and religion because, in actuality, philosophy is considered to be higher than religion by the contemplative elite, at least. That's the reversal with the masses, or like I said, with the mediocre, even. Religion is considered to be higher than philosophy. And I always talk about, I don't want to be too redundant, but how theologians, you can look at them as screenwriters. You can look at them as screenwriters. They're wise men, and they know how the human mind works. So they know we need images and colorful narratives to drive home, points and lessons, and even metaphysical understandings to drive them into our subconscious mind by way of emotive characters and these scenarios that we can relate to. This is supposed to impact us at a deep level. It's a reversal. It's tracing it back to a certain wisdom, like I said, that isn't imaginative, because that ends up deluding people. Um, but it's used as a device by the ones who are benevolent. Now, the ones who are malevolent, like a lot of the atheists say, because I say at least what half of these guys are just bullshitting with the minds of the public. Every generation thinks that this is their time. This is it. Everything's, spoiling the rumors of war, catastrophe. The populations are basically confusion. It's like Lao Tzu said, when the country goes into chaos, patriotism arises. This is what we have now. So it's sort of a sign of, looming chaos, from the '08 debacle even. But but this is just, of course, manipulation of the human animal, by way of emotive and fantastical notions, which impress certain beliefs and just psychological perspectives, at least. So that's malevolent. But like I said, there's benevolent also. So, of course, these theologians are basing this information. Uh, this is like, there's a book called Stories, a screenwriting book. And basically, you learn the templates of movies. Um, you know, the structure of a movie. It's just like engineering. So, you go in, you have to build the skeleton first. So, you don't just, when you're building, at least you don't start with the outer frame, the decorative outer frame. You have to get inside, from the inside out. And so the bare structure of these theologies that turn into these mass religions is philosophy. Because I talked to a young lady, and I was breaking something down to her, basically just using a certain approach that wasn't, uh, mythical. And but basically, she said to me, "Don't come at me with your philosophy." Like, like almost like it's blasphemy. It's evil to be a philosopher. This is the mind control that religion has, and this is what I mentioned in the Illuminati video. Um, it's evil. You can't think. You'll go to hell. You're defying, God fearing. This is the whole point. God fearing, basically, to sum that up. So, the inner structure, though, of these religions, which get, blown out of proportion, is philosophy. And in the West, since we have Judeo-Christian, and then you have the Islamic offshoot in the Middle East, the the roots of those religions go back to Plato, Aristotle, and Plotinus. Actually, these are the Greek philosophers, and actually, their work, their inspiration can be traced back to the ancient Indian Brahmins, who can actually be traced back to the ancient Egyptians, the Cometians. Now, there could be a debate whether they coexisted or, some people debate which one pre-existed the other, but most people will probably say the Cometians. But then again, ancient India, which goes back to the Dravidians, um, the history is so long that you could make a case that they could have very well coexisted. Nevertheless, they are considered to be two of the most wisest ancient civilizations, even though India is still around. This ancient India. So these philosophers in ancient India, or you can look at it as Kemet, where you had Hermes, which is probably older, which you can probably trace that back to. We hear these stories about Atlantis and Lemuria, but basically, what is the basic understanding of those uh, those philosophies? What is the Atlantean versus the Lemurian? You should look at these more like certain schools of thought, even. But whatever. So let's just say ancient Kemet, ancient India. Those philosophers of those ancient civilizations actually laid a framework on which the theologians built their structures called religions and theologies. Now, before getting to the fact that is it good or bad, the point is that these are individuals with their individual flavors, biases, capacities, talents. There is talent in theology. That's why I always call them screenwriters, to drive home the point. But the bottom line is you have to remember that these are individual people. They're not necessarily so much as chosen, specially picked out of the billions to, see these things only for themselves, as if this power is not powerful enough to have every individual in every generation experience its presence without a doubt, so there will be no question and no infighting down here in the muck and mire and confusion. If he's so powerful, he could do this. Why restrict it to one man? That's dumb. That's stupid. So, this guy would actually be stupid. Like, don't you understand that you gave your man animals and woman animals limited minds and intellects? They are confused. So use your power, your omnipresence, just mental voices. Like everybody should be, in sync with this, just as understanding, right? If it really existed, right? That should be powerful enough than just, somehow all this power was used on one man at one time who was chosen, and people really believe this shit. But what I'm saying is it's an individual thing because an individual theologian, put his spin on something understood to be philosophy, which is deeper and more logical even than religion, which is again imaginative. So, again, fantastic notions. Um, they have to build those on top of philosophies. So, again, Egypt, ancient India, coexist. Just they have this similar understanding of being that see, they investigated being, or the sages, not everyone in ancient culture. It was still like, today. That's another thing. You can't think, come on, like it was really 50, even 50%. It really, just a few, just like now, who were literate, even if they didn't have so much of a written language, they were just, what you could call educated. And it's like Aristotle said, or Plato, one of the two. He said, I think it was Aristotle. He said, the educated differ from the uneducated as much as the living from the dead. And see, again, that was Aristotle who said that. That was Plato who said that. So if you look into these guys' philosophies, you don't get what you get in mass religion based on the delusions, biases, preferences, even narcissism, these megalomania, visions, dreamlike visions, yes, of these individuals, which are not universal truths. So, whatever. Nevertheless, it's built on philosophy. And again, like Aristotle said, the educated differ from the uneducated as much as the living from the dead. Well, what does he mean? Well, the dead are the people in the mass religions, like 3 times, twice removed from the wisdom that they think they are seeking. But like I said, it really becomes it's just this, self-validating, self-relieving, a passionate attachment to myths, fantasies, and just characters. This is the survival assistant. So that would be considered uneducated, and that would be considered to be dead. Just in this sense. And let's say the educated are living in the highest sense, really. But we can reverse that, really. But in the real esoteric understanding. But because damn consciousness, this whole conscious movement, it's unconscious. Or just to say like they always tell you no thought, even in enlightenment, they tell you these things. Like, I'm not making this shit up. This is what they tell you. I mean, be like a dead man, don't think, basically. A lot of people getting into those studies, they try it, stop your thoughts. That's unconscious, nearly, versus being just as conscious. Like everybody talking about consciousness, really. If you want to get deep, it's really unconscious. So Aristotle, pointed that out, and I bring him up again to say, well, if he said that, it's only because he was part of the, since religion is 3 times removed, I would say that the philosophy is once removed from the ultimate truth. So it'll be philosophy, theology, religion. And it degrades by the time it gets to religion. And it's, because there you have, 3 steps, 2 steps even. So Plato and Aristotle and these guys had the philosophy, of course, like I said, by way of the ancient sages, basically. And this internal structure is what you get with Platonism and with Neoplatonism, basically. And then you get some of Aristotle's spiritual philosophy. But the point is to understand that, as I mentioned in the previous video, there is a foundation to these religions. So you don't necessarily have to be just a hardcore like these scientism people, just throw everything out. Like some people, there's just Bible is absolute shit. Wipe your ass with it. Or, I mean, come on, don't play yourself. There's no way, grown men sat around and wrote all those words, with no impetus from some type of valuable source, not necessarily the ultimate truth, but a valuable source at least. I mean, just given the subject matter and the length that they go to explain these things. I mean, it's like I said, talent and its intelligence is very wise. So no disrespect on that angle, but like I said, there's a malevolent side and a benevolent side. But it would still be twice removed, let's say, and religion being thrice removed, degraded. So when you get to philosophy, you get, like I said, the inner structure of what all these noun these mass brainwashing programming programs that everybody's or most of the world is under. I think Christianity has 2 billion. Actually, Buddhism has a lot of followers too, but of course it's no different from Christianity in most critical aspects, at least the public propagandized view of it. So, and Buddhism is not even based on Platonism, but it is based on this the philosophy of the ancient Indian sages, the some of the realism, some of the idealism, mostly idealism, but the realism also, the atomism is mixed in there. but it relates to Platonism too. When you make the anybody who really looks into this stuff, you can make the correlation because all these philosophies basically started out as the investigation of being. That's what it's about. But like I said, you have the because some guy mentioned Plato's cave, and I said, yeah, well, that's he said, yeah, I was going to ask you if you are familiar with that Plato's cave allegory, and I am. Then he thought, well, shit, you're right. It is fantasy. It's not reality. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, it's a fantasy based on reality, but it's twice removed. Let's say it's not as bad as religion. The Plato's cave narrative is very wise. You know, it's a lot of esoteric occult people start getting to that level. Most people in the church, they have no clue of Plato's allegory. No, they haven't spent, let's say, at least 30 minutes of their life altogether, like most of us, thinking about it over the course of, maybe a couple of years, just on what it means. Like, oh, okay, I get it. This is really some type of, delusion, at least, before you can say illusion. Um, they don't understand that level. So, but it's based on reality in the sense of what's real to Plato and Platonism is the intellect. They see it as the mind, the intellect, and the reason that especially some humans have, um, to a greater degree. This has a source in something higher, something he called it good, the absolute, the good, the unity, and just becoming aware, even just silently aware of what's being deduced here is transforming. This is transformative, and like I said, this is once removed from the ultimate truth, so it's closer than religion. So because this system that he transmitted through Greece, basically in ancient Greece, to the philosophers and thinkers, and even though they adopted and adapted nuances, subsequent thinkers, they're gonna put their own spin on it because it's individual. Plato, though, was more of a bare bones approach in a sense. And Neoplatonism comes along and it actually adds more flavor, more dynamism, and they start getting into other debates of good and evil. So, and there actually was an ancient Platonist who was of Gnosis, and by way of what I mean by Gnosis is, I would just say, knowledge of the truth of good and evil. My shtick. That understanding that this place is psychophysical hell / evil. At its core, there was an ancient Platonist also who was in that, had that point of view to express. So Platonism is deeper than Christianity. But of course, it's for more contemplative people. This is the dilemma, because of course the mediocre and the masses can't get to that level of contemplation. So you have to give them stories. So it's not like in of itself, for theologians to fabricate these stories. No, this is not bad at all. This is, it's necessary, but it backfires because really it only proves my POV. Basically, I think this shit is beyond saving. I mean, damned if you do, damned if you don't. You confuse people even more with those stories. I mean, like I mentioned, come on. We don't have to go into all the just, if you don't want to talk about the bloodshed, you could just talk about the stupidity it causes and the stagnated thought. Simple thoughts just don't come with certain blockages like that. To even, these people, a lot of people would think probably law of attraction is evil, which, okay, only, well, like I said, if you want to understand that the whole, just the whole fucking existence basically is, what you consider, bad. Okay, well, in that case, I guess, but then again, since you live here and you people, like the Christians, they do embrace the world anyway. It's just so backwards. well, then you might as well get into law of attraction. Why would you say that's demonic if it's just, teaching you how to maneuver through this world, this blessed, blessed, blessed world? So, but, they won't because, they don't get to even that level. But the contemplatives, of course, like Plato, like I said, once removed, you'll get the deeper understanding of what they're simply trying to convey, basically. And like I said, Plato thought it was the good, the intellect, the reason. It's like Schopenhauer said, reason is the prophet, because that's really the prophet. Um, Reason actually can arouse certain energies in you too when you come to certain conclusions at a deep level, when you really ponder them. Um, it can. It's very transformative. Like I mentioned in the other video. Like I said, it's more transformative than necessarily these comic book, these flip book, uh, you know, narratives that you get. Um, it's just for them to be honest, they would have to admit that these are allegories. So before I read this, I want you guys to know that these are allegories and you should look for the lesson. All right? This really didn't happen. Or even if it did, doesn't fucking matter to you. What matters is what allegorical meaning can you derive from this. But then again, you still have these people sitting in the pews every Sunday. I was 7 years old questioning this shit. But of course, they say you're rare. You know, you got to give people a chance. So yeah, again, so you got to tell them stories, and they get confused. and most people don't want to know the truth anyway. How I would say the truth. Yeah, right. So it's lesser. It's gonna be lesser, and it's gonna be manipulative, and the psychopaths will become those mega preachers also because it's manipulative. So, but of course it is. It's thrice removed from is the great man is already gonna not only distort something before he degrades it, just by default, everybody's gonna distort the story. Like that's natural. It happens every day. An accident, a crime, three different stories. Where is the truth? So yeah, mega churches are milking the public, and though in these charities, and yep, damn right, of course, they're thrice removed, and that's a dilemma. So you can't go to the philosophy. You can't do that with the masses. It's not happening. Um, So it's just a mess. I mean, basically. But anyway, so all this stuff again, it's rooted in a philosophy like Platonism, Aristotelian philosophy, and Plotinus, Neoplatonism. So if you look into it, you'll see that there were Islamic scholars who studied Neoplatonism, and these theologians who adapted theologies onto this structure of thought. So this structure again, it's based on the premise that reasoning, the mind, is related to the soul, which is related to the good, divine, absolute. Neoplatonism changed it to absolute because I guess it was more neutral. It's more philosophically neutral. So because the good, like I wouldn't agree unless it was a form of dualism. He's stating that mind is from an opposite realm, the dualism, like Manny. Mind would be the lights, or intellect would be the light, and the material realm could be the darkness. Then he could say, well, the mind is good, but he's actually in a certain a form of monism. He's even a form of monism, um, where it's a unity. So to say the good, this is an emanation of the good, I wouldn't agree with. And I don't think Plotinus he didn't either. Plotinus let it be known. I think Plato was being, he was just being sort of apologetic. I mean, you never know, but that had to be changed by Neoplatonism. So anyway, the absolute. But what they're saying is that it's still a unity. There's no dualism like Manichaean dualism would say that the light is from a whole entirely different realm from the dark, which is matter, nature. So nature itself is an evil, dark realm. And like you know, I wouldn't say I proven, but I pretty much made clear enough to an honest mind that you need to at least question what you consider to be mother and good nature. So that this is darkness. This is what dualism's Manny's system of dualism says in Manny's theology. So of course Plato's goodness, so Plotinus said, okay, absolute. So this absolute, again, under this unity, which is not Manny's dualism, this it failed in a sense, and became this. So the first stage of the fall was the ideas. So what the ideas represent would be every organism or organic or inorganic thing or being down here in this world represents an idea. And these ideas materialize, or they objectify themselves into a form. And this is what we see. All we see is form and matter. So it's sort of like the sediment descending from the absolute. So these are more so principles than characters, in a sense. This is something that you would contemplate, but it's in between the contemplation that you really start to see what they're saying, and that transforms. Again, that's the wisdom seed that religion has basically corrupted, destroyed, and GMO'd and cloned. And Terminator seed, they turned that shit into a Terminator seed. So, but these ideas objectify themselves by way of a will. Now, and I would say this will is just like I said, bad, or it's cruel. I mean, this is a zoo, and zoos are not nice. I mean, come on, people. Information age, time to get off the bullshit. For the people who are really trying to, go to a more mature level, this is the way you go. Just because it's it's more truthful. You don't look as stupid. You don't look as deluded. When you get higher and higher, the higher and higher you get, and being honest and truthful about this existence, the more you start to look at people with the chuckle, and that's part of the being free of the world too. So again, this is for the few. But this Platonism, which Neoplatonism adapted into a more dynamic system, again, is based on a descent, sort of. So this thought, this absolute one, let's say unified thought of non-thought, at some point in time, and actually that's not true because time came after it. So this is, of course, this is one of the philosophical riddles too. How can the timeless become time or drop into time? How did this fucking happen? Because timelessness is basically, infinity. So how can you trap infinity? How can infinity fall? Falling measures a line of time. So, because time exists in the mind, or some people say the mind exists in time, or, is the foundation of the mind time, or is the mind the foundation of time? They're probably one and the same, but then you have space and matter. So we have an extension of our bodies and all these objects within space. So this is space-time matter. So, but they're saying that this absolute fail, meaning this, now you could see it as a will, a rebellious will. And this is where you get the whole devil kicked out of heaven thing. So this is how you relate this to Platonism. See, this is the devil being kicked out of heaven. This will that manifests here in the meat world, in the meat world, the man animal zoo, with all the other animals and the beautiful butterflies and beautiful women. That too. So yeah, this is all a part of it. but these are ideas. These ideas in themselves, they're not material yet. They're still ideas. So the the depth of this is to see that if you look at a crowd, if you look at a family, you could see them as representing one idea in a sense. So even when you know these are certain practices you could do. These actually increase your wisdom basically. But as you see, like imagine the birth and death of multiple generations or whatever, but try to see the idea um, standing still despite all the birth and death or the constant flux and change of coming and going. There's still this idea that's more real. Just that idea, not Jesus Christ walking, talking about some bread, and actually riding on a donkey. Like, how many people can you really teach? I mean, think about this. This is stupid, right? It's another stupid story. So one man in the desert somewhere is expected to change the fucking world. Damn, God, that is a stupid plan. Don't you understand the weaknesses and just the different languages alone would sort of make this plan a failure from the start, unless you gave them the power to go kill everybody and make them believe this shit. So that's stupid anyway. But that's because it's not real. It's based on, it's a theology, it's a comic book narrative, a flip book, with meaning, with deep meaning, even metaphysical, not just mundane, how do you treat your neighbor type shit, which nobody really fucking obeys. Really. I mean, even if you talk about neighboring countries, but this is stupid, right? Okay, so that's because it's not real. So Platonism is closer to real. Like I said, these ideas, like you could see a family or let's say a cat, a certain breed of cat. Um, you see the same type of cats that that walk the street, maybe a stray cat, um, over the course of let's say 100 years. The same type of cat walking through, let's say, the same city. Um, is that the same cat? Now of course it's not the same cat, but is it the same cat? So there must be an idea, and this idea is more real than the manifestation in the material objectification that happens within space-time mind. So that's a truth that again you can correlate to, like I said, devils being kicked out of heaven, sent here to earth. That's sort of how that would relate, but that would be again the fall into these ideas. Because they mentioned in Gnostic texts also how just how this they call it nous even, but in the logos. But how did it manifest into material form? And this is in the clip off in the back of the Kabbalah, the flip side. How did this materialize into such a basically a wretched form, very limited, very narrow, very despicable even form if you really think about it. But how did this idea was the problem? So he talks about how, of course, then it objectifies, and this is the, you know, you can call it the birth of the world. I think Plato saw it as a cyclical process. Some of them seen it as a one-time thing. Some of them seen it as something that, like I talked about in one video, that there's even more of these worlds in this ocean. I still do think there are. I don't. I mean, I can't prove it. It's you know, but to me, that's not a fantastical notion. I mean, I'm just saying maybe there's more than these. Now, okay, even in the globular, heliocentric or acentric, super galactic cluster Big Bang model, let's just say that's real. This is not even a true hypothesis, but let's just say that's real. If that's real, then, and I know that stars are suns, because a lot of people, let's just say again, this shit is not real, but a lot of people don't understand that in their model that they believe other stars are actually suns with planets as a given. So if there's 400 billion stars, then there's billions and billions and fucking trillions of planets, right? So, but the average person doesn't even really understand that shit. But if they did, then they would have to know that aliens exist. So to even go around and ask, do you think aliens exist? That's a stupid ass question. Like, think about it. Do you think that there are life forms on one of these other trillions and 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 trillions of worlds that are similar to ours around, that revolve around a star? Who would even ask the question? Why? That's a given. That's like living on a street full of, a fucking block with 100 houses with their lights on, i.e., a sun. And then thinking, you're in there, you got your lights on, other lights on, most of the houses, and you say, do you think that there are other people living in those houses? And you take a poll on this shit and you get what? Who? Actually, it was high. I mean, now it was what, 75, but I think that's from movies and these sightings too, which could be interdimensionals. You know, interdimensional, in the sense that the sun is interdimensional, because I think the sun is. Somebody said like it's a keyhole. So now, where are we going? Am I going beyond the bounds of philosophy? Possibly. Am I going beyond the bounds of reality with this? Not necessarily. I mean, of course, flat Earth is mystical. So the sun, in the firmament, moving. When I first saw the sun sort of move, when I saw the high altitude balloon, I saw the sun. I just could see how it could just move. That freaked me out. So, in a sense, the sun itself is some type of interdimensional, creator in a sense, and this is what they wanted us to do, which is to worship the sun, in a exaggerated sense, because I know I call myself sun kiss, and it's still the sun. It's still, but they wanted you to take it to, fucking heights of absurdity. Like, what the fuck? But anyway, people believe, more so than before. So I think it was what, 75? I don't know. I don't feel like looking this shit up. But it might have been 75% of people believe that there's a possibility of aliens. But but it should be 99% of people know, based on reason, that there are aliens right now around those billions and billions and trillions and trillions and trillions and billions and gazillions of stars. Who would doubt that? Nobody. Okay, so that's not the case, though. The case is that we're in some type of dome or bubble. You say, well, how the fuck do you know it's a bubble? I mean, I don't know it's a bubble. I do believe in the waters, and I do believe then we must be encapsulated. Now, so I believe in the primordial waters. So, because I know a lot of people necessarily don't. Some people saying infinite plane. I heard Dr. Phil Valentine, and some people hear flat Earth, and I noticed there's this crowd of people who they have to they still have to spin it to where it's not flat, but it is something mysteriously, strange about it. Like this one guy said, yeah, it's not a sphere, it's a square. Like, yeah, it's a square law. Square circle, it's a square. Like, really seriously pitching this shit. A fucking square? That's worse than the sphere. You're falling off the square too, buddy. Fuck that. I mean, you definitely can't fly on a square. I mean, a square, this shit. But it's like, it's something deep below all that that's making him say that, instead of just saying, well, could it be flat? Why can't it be flat? Again, because the ridicule factor. That's what they got us with, this ridicule shit. So, it just can't be flat. It has to be a square. And then I heard somebody else like, Dr. Phil. I think this was new. He said it. No, okay, yeah, we're on a plane. We're on an infinite plane. But he acted like we live on a plane, but we still live on a sphere, but we live on a plane. He wouldn't just come out and just say, okay, maybe this shit is perpetually leveled. So I just find this shit, very intriguing, the psychology on this flat earth shit. So, and then I don't think a lot of people would be flat earthers if they weren't Christians either. So That's what I'm noticing too. There's a lot of Christians. I wonder if the Bible and everything, but everything plays into this scenario anyway to make it make it work the way it works. So, but who knows? But so because some people seem like because it's really it's frustrating some of the attempts by some people to get it a little more higher and accepted, but it's slowly getting accepted. I do think it's seeping through. There's a lot of smart, serious guys, even in other countries, looking into the flat Earth. So Eric Dubé started some shit for real. So maybe a decade you'll see it pop around, but it's not going anywhere. In flat Earth, I don't think it's going anywhere. That doesn't mean I think hold your breath, but so. But it can't be flat for these people. So it's a square, it's an infinite plane, but then he gets all hyper sci-fi and like just starts bullshitting. So I'm like, damn, dude, why can't it be flat? Like everyone in the ancient times, as you should know, if you're educated in a cult, you understand they knew the world was flat. Babylonian, Sumerian, Mayan, Aztec, Egyptian, on and on and on. So it's flat. And so, yeah, anyway, it's encapsulated for sure. If there's waters, I believe there's waters. Everybody really concedes waters. I think Rob Skiba does. Eric Dubé doesn't. I think a lot of guys want the snow plane thing, and that snow plane shit is horrifying. That's actually the first thought I had when I saw it. The high altitude balloon that I put on that science or psychology video. In my mind, I just saw the darkness and I said, well, damn, because once you realize that horizontal line is perpetually horizontal, that's when it hits you because you've been trained. That's not, it's a curve really. Like I said, these, mind fucked. So it's flat and I think the waters are real. And I think these waters must be abyssal. Like just, the ancient philosophers and contemplators, the guys who meditated on these type of things, they said it was abyssal. So if the waters are abyssal, there may be more of these. So these world systems, there could be. I don't know, but there could be. But now that's even more strange than the space. I mean, the space was alone. All this shit is strange. I remember, I used to always think how haphazard this world. Like I would just imagine, okay, so we're sitting, we're just floating in space. This is just not good. like, like if you really think about it, like how is this even, like some rogue moon could just fucking shoot out of his orbit trajectory or whatever, getting hit by a fucking planet-sized asteroid, knock the shit out of. I mean, all of these things should have already happened by now. Like they say, if it can go wrong, it can. This shit wouldn't even be here. What about asteroid belts? I mean, just all kinds of shit. It really shows you how his mind works, because that's some bullshit to accept. So. But so I think it's abyssal, and I think there's other of these. Possibly there could be. If this is the only one, well then okay, well this good shit. That's good. Then so because there now, so the question is, will this just get destroyed? I think let's say this bubble blows itself up. I'm using, this is quasi allegory here. How the world system starts. This bubble blows up, air pocket. You get the sun, the moon, and the stars in the firmament. You can look at the stars in the sun and the moon as beings, actually. That would do you some justice, and that's where you get into astrology. So there's reality in that. And you can also look at the stars as being psycho entities in a sense. Because like the Chinese said, the stars are our minds. And that's some deep shit. Astrology just says they influence our minds. So there's a difference in that approach, but they're both true. So those are beings in a sense. We can see those. They're there. Astrology is, if you get some real astrology, you can get a deeper understanding on the pattern of your life. Um, that's not spookism. That's science. So the sun and the moon are sort of beings, and this bubble implodes. Well, it doesn't implode, but it blows itself up from the inside. Let's just say, because actually, I don't know how this happened. I don't think anybody does. But I do believe in the waters and the encapsulation. So again, you could look at those as supernatural beings, in the firmament, if you want to look at it, because they're above nature, for sure, and they influence the natural beings down here. And they can actually be read like a clock. So the intelligence is there. So this is where you get into Platonism, and you see these the logos, the nous. These come down, you know, at the primary level. They're ideas. So there has to be a world idea, or you could look at it as a collection of ideas that make up a world. So the idea of a sun, the idea of a sun being, the idea of a moon being, the idea of a star being. So what are these? Now the Gnostics would call these archons. So these would be your beings. And this is Gnostic astrology. They talk about that, where the wandering stars are the planets. This is from Hermes also. So you get the alchemy. You see all those some of those drawings, those real those hermetic alchemical looking drawings. People know what I'm saying. But yeah, this is what all this is based on too. So Platonism, because like I mentioned Hermes with Egypt, because Thoth. This is the foundation of what theologians turn into the garbage of religion or religiosity, or what religiosity, or what what it makes out of theology. So, but this is these ideas, these beings, and then you have the creatures. Then you have humans. You have animals. You have flowers. So you have the flora and the fauna. You have inorganic life. You have water, rocks, of course, and mud, soil, lava, which is heat, fire. And that's one of the key components, because the sun is fire. So we have the water, fire, air, earth, action going on. And, the Captain Planet, uh, Dragon Ball Z, but the elements. So these are ideas. The elements are ideas, which you can get into atomism, and they start at the atom. This is where you can get into atomism. The ideas objectify themselves by way of the atoms. So the atoms have already this knowing of the idea that it will manifest, but the idea has to be constructed from the inside out. And basically, what this comes down to is, well, how is a human constructed? When you get into sperm and egg, you get into the atoms of the sperm and the egg. For people who believe in atoms, there's a debate if atoms are even real. If this could be a lie, just like the whole galaxy solar system thing, because the atomism was never really proven, supposedly, until the early 1900s or the late 1800s. So there was a debate still. Wow, are these atoms even real? A lot of philosophers would say, well, they haven't proven these fucking atoms. Like, what the fuck are they talking about, these little atoms? So people would say it was just holism. So there's not really atoms. Like, it's a whole idea that manifests itself. It doesn't do it from this atomic boom, boom, boom level, like boom, like Legos or something. A fucking So it is actually a holistic system. There are no atoms, but that debate still reigns on as far as if you don't believe in atoms. Now, I believe in atoms. I think they've demonstrated the chemical manipulation at a very deep level that, I mean, for lack of a better term, must be atomic with the chemistry. So I believe in atoms. So given the fact that, well, okay, if they confirm atoms, that means atomism was true. And like I said, if you get the fusion of, sperm and egg, because how to make this real is to think about your own being. The atoms had to compound. And where the hell did these atoms come from? They must have came from out of space and time and matter. Because how can a sperm and egg grow into what you feel and inhabit, or what you are right now? I'll say what you are right now. this mind body creature. So um, that's the philosophy on it. That's up for your contemplation of. But like I said, I think the atoms are real, and of course, I think they form out of out of space and time. This again would be from the absolute. So these ideas formed by way of atomic force. So this atomic force, when you get into idealism, is driven by a will. Um, and of course, so when you have the creation of the child, you do have there is a will there actually in the organic um, formation of even a baby. The will that develops that, you can call it the will of nature, but that's vague because or you could just go to the will of human, or go deeper than just say nature, but or just the will of that individual as part of a collection of ideas. But again, this is the idea with the atomic theory and the Platonism. This still connects to Platonism because this idea has to form into a human. Why didn't it not form into a chicken? Because there had to be a certain idea within the principle, within the essence of the mother and the father. The idea actually pre-exists in the mother and the father, actually. So, and again, this idea that wills itself into the meat world, like I said, is considered mostly evil. So, and really, no, 99% bad, really, or just um, not good. So this idea and these other ideas, like when you have grass and certain type of trees, these ideas form into being, and this happens on this flat Earth. So again, there could be more of these, but even if that's not the case, this is the only one. Well, then again, it has much significance, and it would mean that, well, at least if this is the only one and this is the only creation that's gonna dissolve or whatever, whenever, how long, it might be millions and millions and millions and millions of years. Uh, who knows? But then, well, I guess that would be it. So this is what Platonism goes into, and with the Plotinus, the philosophy is what I'm saying. Okay, so this is basically exposition of the inner workings or the backbone, the skeleton. Actually, well, the atoms, really, the atoms of religion, not what you see as this form that has been going through all these distortions and biases. So when the Gnostics or the early Gnostic writers, they they saw the concept of a demiurgos. Demiurgos was the nous, the energy that created this world. But again, Plato ascribed to it good, or he himself felt it to be neutral. So who knows what he meant? I don't think he was that naive. So, but he called the craftsman, the intelligence, the world making intelligence is called Demiurgos, the craftsman, by Plato. This is where the Gnostics or the early Gnostic philosophers and theologians get demiurge. And when it gets into the hands of the Gnostics, demiurge becomes a negative term. Demiurge. It sounds demonic already, right? But Plato didn't necessarily mean that. But then again, there's a debate too, because he might have, because he said, I think it was Aristotle or Plato said that nature is not divine; she's a demon. But then some people say, well, but he didn't mean demon. Demon means your higher self. So, and then the Christians spun demon into be spooky. So then there's that debate too. But nevertheless, he said Demiurgos was the craftsman, and these Gnostic philosophers who came along and these Gnostic theologians borrowed that term and used it to say, yes, the craftsman of the material realm is evil. He is basically he's not a demiurge is a neutral term. Demiurge just means craftsman. So, but he's an evil craftsman. So the demiurge becomes the evil creator of this world, and is anthropomorphized and again caricaturized by a lot of sects as an actual personal evil creator god. So, like a devil somewhere, maybe outside of space time, who points his intention in certain places at certain times. Now, that defies the logic of being a world making intelligence because, come on, there's there's grass growing, there's grass dying, there's certain flowers growing, budding right now. There's certain creatures being born and dying. To tend to all this, you could not be a limited mind. So, like a human like mind, limited by time. You would have to be timeless, which means you don't have thoughts in that sense. So it's not an intellect. You could say it's an intelligence, but it's not intellect. It's not. And this is what, of course, atheists know. I mean, come on, personal God, that's silly. Like, it wouldn't even make sense. Like, and like Jesus coming back down. Like, yeah, right. Like the militaries of the world would blast him out of the sky. Like, what this shit? What? And he's coming back with a sword. Oh, he would be a dead motherfucker. Like, I mean, that's not gonna work. So, come on, because it's not real. So, yeah, they would just say Craftsman evil. But some people would say, or interpret it as this is a personal God. Um, and this is where the confusion comes in. Now, what is it? It's an evil principle. But it's already manifested. I mean, once it manifests as this world, then you see the objectification of it. These ideas. So these ideas will be seen as being evil. Basically, is what I'm saying by a Gnostic philosopher. Now, again, like I said, Gnostic theologian or a Gnostic religious leader, by the time it gets there, it becomes just bullshit because, like, Flatwater hit me, say, oh, they're distorted, the white brotherhood. I'm like, I don't really give a shit about any of that. Like, because he's, a lot of these guys are Christians, whatever. But, I don't give a damn about that. I'm not looking at that. I'm just understanding the premise, the understanding, which I can verify for myself. I'm not in any sect of anything really. So but I would just say in the light of Platonism, then this would be where the ideas would be considered not good in the terms of just some type of ethics or morality, if you want to, because religion is supposedly part of ethics and morality, but they they overlook this whole entire zoo of nature and its ways, and just they try to put all the weight on man's psychology alone, which is just whatever. But that's Platonism in the light of some Gnosis. When you look at it that way, you can see how, okay, so this is where that stream of thinking comes from. When you say, okay, these ideas are fucked up, or or let's just say nature is a indifferent zoo, like Lao Tzu said, nature is indifferent. She treats all the creatures like straw dogs or sacrificial dogs, basically. Diseases, hurricanes, storms, wars, yeah, other humans. You walk into the wrong jungle, you're gonna get fucked up. So, and there's nothing, there's no hand from the sky is gonna, make sure he is safe. He has worshipped me. It's not fucking happening. So, these principles are already objectified. This is the understanding that religion and theology degrades, but that's Platonism in light of that Gnostic premise. So this is the starting point, because it's based on, again, a reasoning. This reasoning actually transforms your intuition at a deep level. This is why Plato noted that things like screenwriting, comic books, that people get into and get all passionate and bewildered about, is imaginative and it's deluding. What's higher than that is to just use simple deduction. So to deduce that, this must be an idea before it is formed. So I must be an idea. Keep it that sober and simple, and you'll transform the way you understand the world. Not one day the Christ will return with the blood of the sword. Like what? What? Like, that's fantastical notion. See, so if you want to be able to start, telling the difference between fantasy and reality, because there are, depths to this reality, but again, this is philosophy. So philosophy is higher than religion. It is the inner workings of religion, like I said, wherever you go, even the East with Buddhism, like I said, based on those are earlier philosophies. So in Hinduism, all of it. So because it's not just the Vedas, like people would try to put forth, and it's not just the Bible, like people would try to put forth over here, or the Quran, or the Torah, or what are those based on? Like I said, you trace it up to the Kalipov. Well, then now you're getting into not religion, but you're getting into esoteric theology, which is higher than the religion. But if you trace the Kalipov back, in the Kabbalah and Judaism, you're getting into Neoplatonism and Platonism, which is philosophy, which is for the educated. And this is the real education. And the educated differ as much from the uneducated as much as the living from the dead. And even Seneca mentioned how religion is for the masses. Wise know it's a lie. The king thinks it's useful. So that's what I went into with the other video too, on Illuminati. So yeah, philosophy is higher than religion. This is where all these confusing systems come from, and they're not as fantastic as you first would like to think, or at least their origin has nothing to do with their mask that gets shown to the profane public. Peace.